Very good. Okay, I think we have the full board here. We've got everyone from a lot of staff members. This is great. Okay, our first item on the agenda is the Council Hall Adaptive Reuse Feasibility Study. And Stephanie Schaefer from Buckhart and Horn, you're on. Stephanie or Jean, do you want to give a little bit of introduction?
Sure. If you recall, a while back, I had applied for a grant to conduct an adaptive reuse and feasibility study for what we refer to as the former Council Hall building, where the building and planning offices were when I started here nearly 30 years ago.
30 years ago.
Next will be 30. The building was really not being used for anything except for storage, and it sits in a very prominent place in the downtown. It's a valuable piece of real estate, and so in discussions with the mayor, we thought maybe we could find an adaptive reuse for the unique building, and that might include, something to do with the arts or entertainment or incubator space. But we needed to have the building assessed, and we needed to find out, what could we do with the building? And so we hired Buckhart Horn to help us along that. And the proposal that we accepted will include 3 phases. Phase 1 is the site visit and assessment, which has been completed. Phase 2 is the adaptive reuse target, which we're going to work on next. And then phase 3 will be the concept development. But I'll let Stephanie give you an update as to where we're at right now with the project, and maybe solicit some ideas from this board on potential uses for the building. Stephanie?
Okay, thanks, Jean. I do have a PowerPoint if we can do that, or I can just talk, however you want to proceed.
I'm not sure we can. Let's try that. Give me just a moment, please. Are you ready with the PowerPoint?
I'm ready.
Stephanie, I'm not sure. Are you? No. It helps if you send things ahead of time, and then that way I can get them.
This meeting is.
I'll try for it. That's fine.
Give me just a moment. Just a moment, please. Commissioner Givens, we're getting feedback.
Can you hear, were you able to hear Jean or no?
Okay.
You might be getting feedback because one person I think is talking via their phone.
Okay, let's try this.
Let me.
I would think that she'd be able to share her screen.
I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to do. Stephanie, are you hooked up?
Yeah, my screen's here. Yeah, I got it.
Are you joining this meeting on a telephone or a computer?
Right now, Michelle's talking.
I am on both.
I understand that. Where is the PowerPoint?
On the computer.
Okay. Bear with me.
Okay.
Wow, we're having some technical difficulties today.
No, it's okay. We're going to get there. If this is our biggest deal, we're having a good day, right?
That's right.
Nobody looks like a cat.
There you go.
That was good.
Yes. Now, just bear with me. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen. Do you have the PowerPoint up on your computer?
I do.
Would you open it right now?
It's open.
Okay. Joe, can you ask Commissioner Givens if he's got any microphone or headphones plugged into whatever apparatus he's trying to listen with?
Okay.
Stephanie, are you able to email me that PowerPoint?
Sure, but I mean, it's fine if we don't use it. That's fine.
Okay, it's your choice.
I'm already prepared. I'll just go ahead and talk. That's
okay.
Fine. I know you guys
You can hear,
important, so.
okay, because she was gonna say, make sure you don't have any kind of headphones or some type of speaker plugged in. You might be getting. Okay, great. Bye-bye.
Okay, Stephanie, walk through it.
Okay, I will do that. Thanks. Good afternoon. I'm very excited to be here with you today. This is a very exciting project for us. It's a little bit out of the ordinary. I don't get to work on things like this too often, so I really am having a good time with this one. As Jean very well introduced, it's the council hall study. The building is on North Street. It's the old Singerly Fire Station building, and it's the firehouse and then the half of the record storage that was used for the courthouse next door. Back in December, my team of architects and engineers went and we came and visited the building, and we've done a conditions assessment. We have written a report. It's in the draft form because we're going to keep adding to it as we go along. I have shared it with Jean, so if you want to see more or find out more about that, she can share that with you certainly. The engineers that came were structural, mechanical, and electrical. And we have completed I'll say, as constructed drawing of the building. It's not an as-built, not everything, completely documented and noted, but we do have floor plans that we can work from and develop our concepts as we move forward and design. So what we discovered as part of the condition study was that there are several things that will need to be addressed, and I just want to mention them and make you aware of them as we move forward. The building is in good structural, it's in sound condition, but due to its age, there are things that need to be done. And I'm sure you know this, I'm sure you're all property owners, and you know just with time, things don't work as well anymore, things aren't appropriate anymore. So the first thing that we looked at was the building exterior. There is a lot of mortar that's missing from the masonry, and that allows water to infiltrate through the exterior of the building into the building. So that's one thing that needs to be addressed. The windows are in, I'd say, fair shape. There's a lot of glazing, again, due to the age. They're the original fabric of the windows, so a lot of the glazing would have to be replaced. There's trim that needs to be replaced that's either rotted or in bad condition. So there's, some aesthetic things that don't really affect the structure, but affect the building condition over time. We did not hire a hazardous materials consultant, but just based on experience of the team, doing projects for 20, 30 years, you tend to look for things. So we noticed things that were suspect as containing hazardous materials. There are acoustical ceiling tiles that are glued onto the arch in the record storage vault. The experience there is they use adhesive with asbestos in it. They used to use that to adhere chalkboards to walls in classrooms. So generally that's something that we look for, and we know that potentially the hazards are there. And just also due to the age of the building, there may be lead paint and things like that. So we would recommend that a hazardous materials expert come in and look at that prior to doing any work to make sure that all that stuff is out of the building before any renovations start. Also, due to the age of the building and the proposed new use, whatever that ends up being, the building systems in place are all at the end of their useful life now. So salvaging any of that mechanical equipment probably doesn't really make sense. Buying something new would be more energy efficient and more sustainable for the future life of the building. There are toilets in the building. Some of the plumbing fixtures are gone, so that's another thing that will have to be looked at more in detail and addressed as we move forward. And lastly, accessibility. The building is only accessible through the Elkton Alliance side of the building, so you'd have to go all the way through from one end to the other. And that doesn't really make the space usable. So we need to get a ramp or some other entrance into the building so that we can gain entrance to the first floor, access to the first floor. There are also changes in the floor materials as you move through the building. So the transition between the record vault space, which is we assume to be a brick floor, to the old office space, it looks like they build it up in wood and then put new finishes over it. So, you know, looking at things like that moving forward. There also is no elevator in the space, so it depends what the final use will be if the elevator is required or not. But right now, we're in the phase where we're trying to get information and input from the community as to what they believe is required, and sharing in stakeholder meetings like with y'all. We also met with the Arts and Entertainment Committee last week. So just trying to garner information from the public to see what their ideas is, and then develop them into, as we move into the next phase, which is the last and final step, is to develop concepts to, you know, determine whether people think we should use art gallery space or, you know, a cafe or a combination of something, what makes the most sense for the building. So that's a quick update of where we are right now. Does anyone have any questions?
Are you going to supply that information in writing to the town?
Yes, sir. Yes, it will be part of our report. Like I said, we're probably a third of the way through the process. So this is basically to update you on what we've found so far. And we will I assume, bringing the concept for review as we move forward.
Hi, it's Rob. Is there your knee-jerk reaction to this? Is there, are you thinking a gathering area? Are you thinking incubator space, arts and entertainment? Is there, as you've been doing the first phase, what's your thoughts?
I believe that we also have had access, we've done research too, like historical research, and looked at your planning documentation. I think the last master plan was done in 2008, I want to say. But looking to see what was developed from that and trying to move that forward too. So it seems like there's strong connections. The site is not that far from the hospital. Obviously, it's close to the county government. It's close to the college. So, you know, it's a really, I think it's a good location to do pretty much anything. So it's, you know, when we were there the day of the survey, where can we go eat? I know it's COVID, which is another caveat I have to put on this. You know, doing this during COVID times is sort of a little bit different than if it was normal life. But, you know, there was only, I think, 2 restaurants were named. So I don't know if that was just preferences of the people that we asked, or if there needs to be more of that. And that's what the public survey is trying to get to. You know, why do you come downtown, and what would make you more likely to come downtown? Trying also to connect the First Friday events and the other annual events back to this space, I think, is also important.
Very good.
I don't know if I really answered your question, but that's where we are.
And currently you wouldn't have any, or do you have some drawings in your PowerPoint?
I do not have drawings in my PowerPoint.
Okay. Very good. Does anyone have anything from the board?
Well, we're currently in the phase where Stephanie is looking for input through surveys. We've reached out to the Arts and Entertainment District, the Elkton Alliance, to ask them if they could send out surveys on our behalf. Stephanie's also asked if we could place the survey on our website and maybe on our Facebook page to try to get input from the public as to what their ideas are for the building.
And
Yeah,
I'm sorry, the survey is on our website, and I completed it.
That's a great idea. The one thing I know from the look of the building, I would love to be able to figure out how we could turn it back into the look of the fire company. remove the doors and put like a garage door that you could kind of see through. And if we needed it for events, you could open it up and have that master space there for venues, but I don't know if that's possible or not.
Yes, sir. We are looking at that as one of the options. And also keep in mind that, what we recommend or our ideas, also have different cost implications to it. So if we decide, if we recommend that a restaurant should be put in that space, we're going to have to go before the health department, and we have to meet all the health, floor sinks and all that stuff that would have a different cost implication than if that gallery space where you might have a sink, but it doesn't have to be for food service. So, we're trying to negotiate all that stuff too, and try to come to a good understanding and qualify that so that you guys aren't surprised as you move forward that the different versions have different implications.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Then I would ask everyone that's online today, spread the word about filling out that survey. Let's get as much input as we can from each of us and residents of the town, and let's make an award-winning project that we'll all be proud of.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you. I'm going to drop off all my connections. I'll drop off.
All
Sorry
right.
to be a problem this morning.
Not a problem.
All right, take care.
Okay, we're going to change the agenda around a little bit. We're going to put the discussion on the wetlands mitigation, Southfield's PUD Geotechnology Associates. I think that's Mr. Stansfield.
Yes. Thank you. First, let me start off. Thank you to the mayor, commissioners, and town staff for your time this afternoon and the opportunity to speak here at this work session. Our scheduling for this came together quite quickly, and that's much appreciated. So thank you all. I believe I had submitted a letter outlining a couple of bullet points related to this request and a few exhibits that I believe were circulated to you all, if that's correct, and you may be familiar with.
Yep.
Andy,
Okay.
excuse me for interrupting you, but I'm going to put up a PowerPoint real quick and see if this can be done, okay?
Okay.
And can everyone see that?
No.
Okay, hold on.
And Michelle, if that doesn't work, I have everything up on my screen. If you would like to share, I can do that as well. So
And that's part of our problem here, so give me just a quick second, okay?
sure.
I've never done the shared thing, but I always thought if you hit that green button down there, it would bring it up for him.
And that's what I had done previously.
Mhm.
But because I have found that it works best if exhibits are sent to me, then I can place them on this screen and then
Gotcha.
I know that it's good. This is what I did with what Andy sent me. But actually, are you seeing a photograph right now that Lewis sent out yesterday?
No.
Okay.
I'm sitting in front of it.
Yeah, I know you are, but I want everybody else to see it too. And I wanted everybody else to see what Andy has sent us.
I thought you were actually at the hatcheries.
Yeah, I am. It's cold out here too.
Put on
Wet.
some sunscreen, Lois. Put on some sunscreen.
That's a good start to a wetland we have right there. That's right.
All right.
There you go.
Now, are you seeing that photograph?
We
Yes.
see it.
Yep.
I'm very happy. Okay, so whenever you want. Now, Andy, your two photographs are as part of this.
Okay,
So-
no, this is fine. We'll go, and I look at this as a fluid conversation to bring you all up to speed on our requests. So feel free to please ask questions as we go and guide me in any direction that you'd like to take. I will also add, in starting off here, that joining us on this Zoom today is Mr. Steve Moore from Southfield's Capital, the applicant. And also two members of our team here at GTA are listening in. We have Dan Sinaraki, who's a senior wetlands mitigation manager for us, and also Max Potember, project manager that's responsible for the wetland permitting associated with the various Southfields parcels. So to start off, the reason for this ask is over the last few months and continuing, we've been working with the town and the Maryland Department of the Environment and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers related to the Southfields PUD and its wetlands, wetland impacts, and then mitigation needs as part of those wetland impacts. And we've identified that overall for the entire PUD, there will be approximately 10 acres of wetlands that will need mitigation. That's 10 acres that we'll need to create in accordance with the state and federal guidelines for wetland permitting and mitigation. We have what MDE and the Corps prefer, and I know this is an interest of the town as well, is that the mitigation occurs within the same watershed of the project and the wetlands that are to be impacted. And I know that the town also has expressed a preference to have, since the project is within town limits, that we have the mitigation occur within town limits. With that criteria, we did a search across the town's limits and town property, and identified the hatchery ponds as a potential site for wetlands creation, wetland mitigation. And looking at that, what makes the hatchery ponds? Yes, thank you, Michelle. So that kind of brings it up. So what makes that area attractive is its proximity to the Big Elk Creek. Okay. There's also ponds that are located on the upper right-hand corner of the screen that contribute to the hatchery pond, and also that it's currently not functioning as its original purpose, and is, in our professional opinion, ecologically speaking, we can add some ecological value to the area, and also through this mitigation project be able to add some public and engagement and recreation opportunity as well, to which you currently have, but we would look to enhance upon that. To go through the mitigation process and to step back, so on the Southfields project, we have been out in the field with the Army Corps of Engineers and MDE on some of the parcels of the overall project. Not all yet. We're continuing to schedule those meetings as plans are developed and we understand what the project plans are and the proposed wetland impacts are. But we have looked at parcel I and parcel, looking at the thing on my map, make sure I reference right, parcel D. And as part of those meetings with the Corps of Engineers and MDE, we did go out to the hatchery pond site and walk the property. And those agencies were receptive to initially looking at wetlands creation at this site and enhancing the areas that are presently there. With that, it leads us to the next step, and that's the reason for this ask is think of us as really being in a feasibility period at this time. We need to understand the conditions of the site, meaning we need to understand what the soil conditions are. You need to have specific soil conditions for wetland creation. So we'll need to do borings on the site up to 10 feet. And also that would be an approximate 5-inch diameter borehole. You can see here on the exhibit that Michelle is showing is that's the proposed boring locations, borings 1 through 10, and that's to investigate the soils again down to 10 feet. We'll also need to do a wetland delineation. We will not be able to obtain credits for existing wetlands. We will have to create wetlands. So we need to do a wetland delineation to identify where the current wetlands are. And then how much land that is upland that we would be able to convert to create wetlands. That's basically our process. and our specific ask is for permission from the town to enter the site and perform these studies as part of this feasibility period. Now, you may wonder what the next steps are after we do this, and that's really where we start to get into the actual design and coming up with a concept as far as what this will look like. And I know that'll be a lot of interest to everyone on this call, and we're excited to share that. But we can't get there without this information to be able to start to draw it up. But we have a blank canvas in a way, but we need to know that the data in order to start to draw this up on that canvas. So
I want to ask a quick question. Does the mitigation on this site, would it help the town of Elkton with their MS5 permitting? I think that's what it's called.
MS4.
Yeah. MS4.
That's a great question, Rob. I do not know the specific answer to that question, as I do not specifically engage in MS4 permitting and mitigation at the municipality level. I will say that oftentimes the reviewing agencies do not allow a double dip, if you will, so a credit for 2 credits for 1 project type thing. Now, that being said, there could be, we could complete. It's definitely worth the ask. I will say that, and it's a great ask to know. But what we create, there may be opportunity to build upon that to help satisfy some of your MS4 requirements. So,
and just to educate me a little bit, when you're saying wetlands creation, it would be where the ponds are now.
Correct.
Inside those ponds.
We're looking at working within that footprint of those ponds. Removing the berms that's the easiest area to start to target, as far as that's clearly uplands now. So we'd remove the berms and in many of the areas to be able to create wetlands and have and instead of right now, I think there's like 10 individual runs, we would be looking to have a more broader interconnected wetland system that would be used by varying animals and birds for different opportunities, amphibians, and just really increase the habitat there. So
one of the things that our neighbors that use that park, they talk about how gorgeous it is, how beautiful it is, and they like to walk around that track around the ponds.
Mm-hmm.
Would there still be that feature?
It's likely that the outer limit trail, if you will still be in place. We will need to, either through piping or possibly through an open channel, we would like to connect the wetland creation area to Big Elk Creek, and also to the ponds that are feeding it, so that you maintain that source of water and hydrology. We do envision incorporating trails and observation areas for recreation, for birding, and other forms of recreation on the property. So we do not envision that this would be a creation site that would not have public involvement and public engagement. That's part of our vision for this, is that you still maintain public engagement.
Andy, I have a 2-part question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that this runs along the Delaware Avenue. Is that right? You have it looked like you had a design coming across the Delaware Avenue. Is that correct for this connection?
Michelle, can you bring that project area figure back up?
I'll do that. Give me a quick second.
Yeah.
Can you see?
Yes.
Is that right?
There.
It goes down to, this is what you're looking at, Commissioner?
Yes. My question is, how would this enhance the issue we have with our flooding right now on Delaware Avenue? And what would it do to better that flooding issue that we've been having for the last 30 years in order to deal with this Hatteridge part?
Sure, Commissioner. So that part that you see there on Delaware Avenue, that's within the red polygon,
Yes.
What that is showing is simply our access for our review area, okay? The focus of the mitigation wetlands creation is going to be within the footprint of the hatchery ponds. And also we've looked at, there's 2 ponds that are just adjacent to those as well. There's some opportunity maybe for some enhancement of those habitats also, but we're not proposing work besides just construction access and off of along Delaware Avenue there. That polygon is just to demonstrate how we would access the property.
I saw the connection. I saw the connection. I thought maybe it would have some kind of effect with that issue that we have. That's why I asked that question.
No, great question. And in regards to flooding, I know that is a concern. Well, having grown up in the county myself, and I played soccer at Meadow Park when Cecil Soccer was there, and that is a wet area there at Meadow Park, and is flooded frequently. I'm fully aware of that. This project may, as we get into it more on the design side, we're absolutely going to look and see how it may help with some flood abatement. One thing that to take under consideration, if removing some of the berms, we may be increasing flood storage within that area. It does lie within, when the hatchery ponds do lie within the 100-year floodplain according to the current FEMA map. But that will be something that'll be under consideration. This will not, in and of itself, there's a greater issue there. It will not solve the flooding of Big Elk Creek through Elkton. That would be a much larger project over a much wider area, but it may have the potential for some abatement, and we will look at that as part of it.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask a question too? How many acres is the hatchery pond?
The hatchery ponds, the perimeter around the outer berm, we just measured it off Google Earth, and it's about 10 acres.
Okay, so it's an equal amount for what you're looking to mitigate.
Correct.
From Southfields. Okay, that works out good. But in your
Can I comment there?
Yeah.
You can't take credit for existing wetlands. You have to keep in mind that a portion of that 10 acres may have existing wetlands, and they can't use that in the mitigation. They can only use what's not currently wetlands for transitioning over to a wetland situation.
So is that part of what's already been done or has to be done?
That's part of what's proposed to do a wetland delineation. There's when you look out there are wetland plants, but there's 3 parameters that are required to define a wetland. Plants are one of them. Hydrology is one, basically water at the surface, but also soils. So we will, in addition to the borings, we will do hand auger soil evaluations to 20 inches throughout the areas we do our wetland delineation, and areas that may lie wet, have the vegetation, may not have the soils, and then we would be able to use those areas for mitigation. Also, we could look at existing areas. We don't get a full credit for existing wetlands, but if we enhance them, we could get a partial credit for some enhancement.
So that would work. Can I ask a real, maybe off the wall question here? Anything that you will do in the near future as far as, creating this wetland area, if we were to look at flooding down the road, would this wouldn't be something that we will or could use, I guess, in the future for flood mitigation, that we would look back and say, God, we should have never touched that. We should have, waited and utilized that for a future need to address our flooding issues. I mean, is that just, it could be a really crazy question, but I'm just curious.
It's a great question. I really don't have that crystal ball to know what the town's proposing for flood considerations. I would say again, I think that if you do have a flood study performed, and then also a project that would be done to try and abate flooding of Delaware Avenue and then down through Eder Park and Meadow Park. It would be more of a holistic than just this area to solve that problem.
Oh, I'm sure you're absolutely correct. I was just curious. We do have an old study. I don't know how feasible it would be, currently, but I'm sure it's probably close to what we'd be looking at for flood, correcting the flood problem. But I'm just thinking, would they say, well, you need 10 acres of land in the area to help facilitate the fix, and then we've created wetlands that we can't touch. I'm just thinking outside the box, I guess you could say. I'm all for this project, as long as we there's not an issue down the road. Makes sense.
Yes, and I understand your question. I am in receipt of the report that the Corps of Engineers has prepared for Big Elk Creek, for as part of their flood study that they performed and their recommendations. We will be taking a look at that, and again taking it under consideration as we do our design. That is part of a larger project and a larger solution there, but flooding, I have heard multiple times, is a concern, and like I said, firsthand knowledge. So we will be taking that into consideration. So
okay, well, I thank you for that.
And Andy, and I guess I was going to ask Lou George this question, but one of you guys can answer this. From the Delaware Avenue again, will we have to involve the state because it's a state road? Do they have to have some kind of input in this? Lewis,
You're talking about during a flood study?
Well, I'm still looking at this diagram from Delaware Avenue. That's part of the state road that it's coming off of, right?
The state road obviously has jurisdiction just over the right of way on Delaware Avenue, but a nuisance flood study as we had, it really doesn't involve the state.
Right.
It was the Corps of Engineers that were involved in that.
And this question, okay, thanks.
And to your also, if I may, Commissioner Piner, all we would need there is we'll have that'll be our construction entrance if we move forward with this project. So the state would be notified that we have a construction entrance there, but you already have an existing entrance, so we don't see that as being any issue going forward. Typically, if we have to create one, then we go through the state, but that would just be a notification that we have a project and we're using the existing entrance as our stabilized construction entrance. So,
a real quick comment that I would make, north of where the red line is at the top, the town of Elkton owns that land that goes to East Main Street. I'm not sure how many acres that is. Does anyone know? Was it 4 acres, 7 acres, 10 acres that we transferred from the county last year? I'm not sure. Gene and I was talking about the other day. We're not sure if we ever annexed it into our town, but the town of Elkton does own that land a little bit north, which takes you right on to East Main. Now, my knee-jerk reaction as I'm looking to this, and if we decide I know you got to do the borings and so forth to even know if this is feasible or not, but could that be a construction entrance out front there? And I say that because wouldn't that make a nice entrance at some point to go to these ponds, where you could almost put some parking and people could access this park via draw right to the car, right to the mitigation. And I don't know if that's possible. That's just kind of my knee-jerk reaction. But I know that we own the land a little bit north of that red line, all the way to East Main.
Mayor,
yes.
Mayor,
That land was never conveyed to the town yet
Wow.
because so many mistakes in the deed were made, and Michelle's going back and forth with them over time. But of course, the attorney that we dealt with at the county no longer exists with their government. So we'll have to renew any discussion with them about conveying that property. But Michelle had many occasions tried to get the deeds corrected, and they never were. So we don't own that land yet.
Okay, my mistake. I know that we were, I know that it was voted on, but if there's errors, there's errors. But I guess we should all just keep that in the back of their mind. I would say kind of my gut feeling, we don't know if it'll work. We don't know what it'll look like. I don't think you're going to damage anything by taking soil samples. And then at that point, we would make our decision. And you guys agree with that, or what you're thinking?
Fine.
I agree with it.
Listen,
I think
Louis,
it's a good idea.
well, Lewis actually wrote a very good email about, you know, this park was dedicated to one of our former commissioners, Evans McKinney, and I wouldn't want to do anything to harm or hurt that part of the legacy. Now, saying that, we never used them ponds. It was the unsheltered resident housing for the last 8-9 years until we cleaned it up. So our residents never actually enjoyed that until now. But I know that they are enjoying that walking area. In fact, on occasion, I've actually walked back here. A lot of beautiful birds, a lot of wildlife. And if you told me that this could work and we could enhance the legacy of Evans McKinney Park at the end of the day, then absolutely anything we could do better. But I would leave this to the rest of the board to decide whether we want to bore holes or not.
Mayor,
If I
can you
may,
hear me?
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
it's John Downs. Can you hear me?
Yeah, John.
Okay. I had spoken to Jean Minner about this. She and I consulted back and forth, and there is a restriction on the use of that property, and it's for recreational uses. I realize this is a feasibility study. I think there's absolutely no reason why the proposed project here would in any way detract from the recreational use, and I think it could greatly enhance the recreational use. My experience is if you have water, if you have a pond, if you have wetlands, you probably have a lot of wildlife, and I think that this can make it a better project and more useful, enjoyable to the citizens of Elkton. Hopefully, I would recommend that a proposal be made once they find that this site is a feasible location, that they come back with a proposal on exactly what they intend to do, and hopefully we could incorporate maybe some elevated observation platforms or something that doesn't have to be expensive, but I think that could make this much more usable and stay within the projected uses that were in the restriction for the deed.
Thanks, John. Anyone else have any comments? Lou, any further comment? What do you think?
The one thing I'd like to try to understand, and maybe he can answer this question. If all the soil borings and the soil samples and all the other things came together to make this a suitable wetlands mitigation site, you were talking about removal of the berms. Are you talking about having them, that material that consists of those berms actually removed from the site?
so as we get into design, that's a great question. As we get into design and we do a grading study, okay, we will know what our cut and fills are. If we need, likely we'll have, removing the berms, we'll have more material than we need for the project. And it is likely that we would have to haul some off site to an approved disposal facility, correct?
Because
Or to another project.
You're talking many thousands of cubic yards of material there in those berms. If you're going to keep the topography in terms of the bottom of those ponds, I'm not sure if you're going to lower or raise that in respect to your design or how that's going to work. But depending on how that works is how much material you have to remove.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's a significant endeavor. That's a big area, a lot of material.
It is. It's compared to comparable construction sites. It's not uncommon, and we do know of a lot of sites that need material at this time where that material could go. But you're right. There will be a significant amount of earthwork associated with this.
Rob, I think you had something to comment.
I did. It's actually pretty much what Louis just asked. I was wondering because I walked out there yesterday and noticed that the troughs in between the berms are, I'm not sure, what are they, like 10 feet deep?
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you remove the berms entirely, you're looking at a 10-foot deep pond, lake. If you flatten them, you're looking at a shallower area, correct?
So we're not looking at a pond or lake creation, and it'll be forested, so treed and emergent grassed wetlands that we'll be creating.
You're looking to fill the troughs?
It depends on what those soil conditions are. We may need to bring it in order for wetland plants to survive, you need to have specific soil conditions within about a foot to 20 inches. Okay. So depending on what our soil borings show, we may need to amend that soil. We may need to bring up the bottom some, possibly, or we can just, if it's suitable, then we could remove the berms and work at that elevation. That's all part of what's to be determined based on the soil profiles that we find.
One of the other questions I want to ask you while you're online here is, when you talk, a question came up earlier, would the track around the perimeter actually of those ponds continue to exist? But my question is, on the side of that perimeter that's adjacent to the Big Elk Creek, would that be reduced, that side? And because that's way above the level of the creek. That's how those ponds were discharged when they were used as fish hatchery ponds.
Mm-hmm.
They actually discharged into there, and there was a permit issued by MDE to do that. So the ponds were higher than the creek, otherwise they wouldn't use gravity to lead them and to drain them. So I'm not sure what that edge of the perimeter will look like once this mitigation occurs.
So we're looking at this time, again, it's very preliminary, and you're exactly right. We found some of the old piping through the berm under that outer perimeter that it discharges into a ditch that runs parallel to that berm, and then eventually discharges into Big Elk Creek. Just from our walk, and once the vegetation started dying back, we were able to observe that. We'll need to monitor the water within the ponds, and we'll need to have. We're not looking again to have a ponded area and an inundated area throughout. We'll need to try, and you really just want to keep the soil saturated within that 10 to 20 inch range, so that we can promote the growth of wetland plants. But water that does discharge, we will be looking at really evaluating what some of that old infrastructure is that's in place, although it be dilapidated, and kind of recreate that flow, if you will. We won't have multiple points of discharge. Likely we won't have that as you currently have at the ponds, even though most of them are blocked from what we found. Yeah. But there would be a discharge point there. Correct. Yep.
Well, very good. I would say let's put this in the hands of Gene and Nick to kind of spearhead this with Andy. If the board wants them to take some bore samples, we can't really vote on it right now, but we could bring it up next Wednesday, and we'll get a little more input from staff to see if this is a good decision to do or not. Everyone good with that?
Yes.
Andy, that was a very good report. And before you go, is your mother named Joyce?
Yes, sir. That's my mother's Joyce Stansfield. Yes, sir.
All right, we worked together a long time. Practical. Tell her Charles Gibbons asked for.
I certainly will. I certainly will. And Commissioner Finer may or may not remember my daughter soccer. I mean, excuse me.
I coached you. Yep.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yep. She's been through your basketball camp, so hopefully we'll get back to that at some point. I will, just in closing, if I may, it's something I heard today and through some of the efforts of Mr. George, I believe, that this is J. Evans McKinney Memorial Park as well. My understanding of the late Mr. McKinney was that he was an avid outdoorsman and a waterfowl carver. There is absolutely, I liked hearing that, because we could create some waterfowl habitat as part of this, and that would help, I think, from that public perspective, maintain that memorial to him in that regard. So there's opportunity there for that aspect as well, and that's encouraging to hear, and I like that creative side that we may be able to incorporate. So
very good, thank you.
All
right, thank you, Andy and team.
Thank you. Take care, and we're going to drop off here, and you all have a great rest of the afternoon.
All right, thank you. Okay, next up on the agenda, major facility fees. Let's see, here we go. We're going to have a discussion on the major facility fees and future waivers. The resolution, and I don't have it here in front of me, actually expires in May of, I think it was May 30th, or was it May 31st, 2022, which is now a little bit over a year away. And we've been getting a lot of feedback from staff on the waivers. And I just want to reiterate my thinking was that when we decided to waive hookup fees, it was to encourage, of course, encourage building. And quite frankly, I don't know if it worked or didn't work, but I think that this project, I'll use the example of Southfields, I'll use the example of Baker's Hill, Walnut Hill. I don't believe that Southfields would have considered coming to here. I don't believe that we would have the finishing up of Baker's Hill, whatever, Hickory Knoll, I think it's called. And I don't believe that we would had the action over at Walnut Hill if we didn't offer this. Also saying, I'd like to make a comment that, I went back from 2010. Of course, it was probably the worst building years in the world. And I think that we built from 2010 to 2017 or 18. I think we built, I could count how many houses on our hand. I think it was like 5 houses. Since then, I think we would all agree that we have built a lot more houses the last couple of years, and we see a larger opportunity here. I would also say, I think we accomplished what we wanted to do. I'm very proud of what we did here. We filled up a lot of the infill lots, and we did a fantastic job with it. I would also say that after reading a lot of comments about revenue losses that we would have if we continued this, believe me, I take it at heart. And as I stated in my email to the board, I am absolutely 100% good in ending the waiver and not renewing it for a couple reasons. One, we don't know if I'm going to be, I don't want to restrict any other mayor that may or may not get elected. And I wouldn't ask you guys under that situation. What I am asking, though, is I think we need to come up with a clarification for these projects, because I read the ordinance and I didn't look back at the minutes, and I'm sure someone may have looked back at the minutes and maybe they can give me more of a specific answer. But I've always felt that if they picked up that permit prior to that deadline and they've got their final plans in place approved by the planning commission, let them pick them up. I mean, it's just more action that we can get going. When we think about this, and I'll use the example of Southfields, if they were to start their construction prior to, and they get their finals, which we don't know if they'll get their finals on all that in a timely fashion, but I think they all told us that they're going to put all the infrastructure in. So this is a little different project than what we've done in the past. We've had developers that have burned us. They have came in and they build phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and sometimes that phase 4 never happens. I will also say that if I didn't go out and sell this thing like I did, I promise you, and I really sincerely feel this way, there would have never been a PUD. There would have never been, there would have probably been 4,000 townhouses built, and there would have been probably 20 permits pulled per year. And yes, we would have got the $15,000 per hookup, but we would have had a mess for the next 50 years. And I think we've got some action going on here. And what I would request is the board to truly consider that these developments that are in place, I think the resolution actually states that the building commissioner or the building, well, let's just go. It seems like to me that Chip could have the overall authority to make the decision without really even us coming into play here, based upon if the project has been moving forward. That's my 2 cents. We're looking at 300 homes in Southfield. We're probably, who knows if they're going to finish Hickory Hill in time, but believe me, I want those 35 done in the next X amount of months. And Walnut Hill, I think they're actually going on to a new phase, and I don't believe that would even come into play here. I think it'd be after the fact. And by building these residential houses, it goes back to the live, work, play concept. And we won't get the commercial if we don't have the houses built in a timely fashion. And I think that we all agree. I know it sounds like we're giving up a lot of revenue, and it is a lot of revenue, but I also believe that we're going to reap the rewards of these commercial places coming in quicker. And I can tell you, it could be, I don't like to even say some of the things that I know, but I'm going to say, hey, listen, there could be another medical center coming in. There could be 2 hotels. There could be a massive amount of commercial in the front. We're not waiving any of that hookup fees for anything other than those residential houses. So that's my 2 cents about it. I do agree that I would be in favor of eliminating it, but I think that we need to have something for me to be able to go back with, because I think we've got a great relationship with this developer and developers now. And I think that we could really work this thing to where we're going to be benefiting. The town's going to be benefiting with this. So that's my 2 cents.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah, go ahead, Earl.
Just to piggyback on what you're saying, I thought the board moved towards this direction because some of the things that was taking place in Middletown, some other areas around us, some of the projects that was coming our way, going towards Baltimore. And I know for sure that when we first made this decision to waive some of these fees, was to maybe give an incentive to bring these businesses and companies to come to the Elkton. And you made a point where you talked about some of the developers we worked with in the past and how they talked more than their actions showed. This is a little different, like you said. This person or developer is really starting to produce before he even really gets down to the paperwork, because he's starting to show things that the Elkton area needs, and how as a partner working together with the town of Elkton as a partnership instead of just going for just what they can get from the town of Elkton. So I'm basically I'm leaning towards what you're saying. I still want to hear what everybody else has to say, but I know for sure that I've got more confidence on this developer than I've had in years with dealing with people, because They look like they want to do things to make a project that will enhance the whole town of Elkton, not just their area. So just want to say that.
Thank you. Jean?
Me or
Yeah.
Jean Min?
Yes,
Oh,
you.
yeah, me. The one thing that you said that I will 100% agree with is you accomplished your goal that you set out to do a couple of years ago. I am struggling deeply with this one. I know we're talking about projective revenue. I know we're talking about, costs. I know, all these. The projected revenue, for one thing, Rob, there's no guarantee of that.
That's correct.
Okay, so I don't want to base my decision on that. I do like this developer. I do like his idea of the PUD, but I also know that we're not even in preliminary plan approval stage yet. So there's no promise there either. The housing market, which is booming right now, can do the complete opposite and turn around and be upside down. The only people that are going to be in debt for this are the future residents with the special taxing district to pay for the infrastructure. We don't even have finals for the water and sewer, and without that, they can't even get their final approvals. We are so far, out from where we ideally want to be and where we ideally think we're going. It's not a matter of trust of this developer. It's a matter of logistics, and it's a matter of finance. That's what we need to be concerned about. And like I said before, a couple of years ago, you went out on a limb for us, and your efforts have proven to be, you did an outstanding job. You really did. As far as this developer is concerned, when you talk to him possibly about these hookup fees, I know it was an incentive that, we represented the town in that manner. But he never looked at you and said, it's a time, yeah, well, or in the last year when we were all in front of the public, having these discussions, well, we're going to bring this PUD in and we need your help, but we're also going to ask for special taxing to pay for all the infrastructure. We got hit with that. We got blindsided with that. And, that's neither here nor there. I mean, I know it's a done deal, but I guess I don't feel as though we should be obligating the town financially to apply in the sky. Like I said, none of this is guaranteed. Who's going to pay for the extra police, the extra public works? Who's going to cover when pipes break? The operating costs of our systems, the upgrade of our water, the upgrade of our sewer systems. That's what we're here to make a decision on. Not whether or not we like the developer. Not what, all the houses could go up for no hookup fees, and the commercial aspect of it could go belly up. I mean, it's possible, isn't it?
That's correct.
I mean, I'm trying to think, if I put all my eggs in this basket, and the bottom breaks out, where does that leave us? Where does that leave me in my decision making? I can't base my decision based on what ifs. And we have 4 department heads that have reached out to us with serious concerns about this. And if we don't listen to them, what do we need them for? Now, if the board feels as though they want to do some sort of concession on this, maybe there's a solution. Maybe we can do a BOGO sale. I don't know. Buy one, get one, to show good faith. I might, even be interested in that. But giving it up completely, I can't support that right now. I just can't do it. But again, I would be open to further discussion and further ideas or solutions.
Very good.
All right.
Thank
Done.
you. No, very, very good points. Rob or Charlie, any comments?
Basically, I can agree with some of the comments that Gene has made. I can believe what Earl has said. And I think we all in the same ballpark. But, I've served here for some 20 years and we've seen changes and we have not seen changes in the town of Elkton. Certainly, we cannot continue to be stagnant. And I don't think we have been. We take the opportunity to take a chance, if you want to call it that. And Rob, I go back to when you're talking about, no, you don't know if you're going to be the mayor next year or what have you, but I still think all of us being elected officials, we still, in a sense, have to be visionaries to look ahead to see what needs to be done. And sometimes you might make decision that whether you're here or not, that somebody else might fall prey to, and it will work out. And I just think that it's been a good ride so far from what I've seen from the developer. And I only had the one concern, and I talked with you last night on the phone, as well as I submitted something in writing about all the permits that were going to be offered. Starting out, there's going to be 50, and then there's going to be more. And then in May of 22, they all are going to expire. And I was just assuming, and as Gene talked about, no, we don't know if we're going to get that money or not, but you want to have some idea in the ballpark of what might happen or it may not happen. I think this is the task before us. And I also discussed with you, and I was going to ask Lois too, when the permits come about, there are 6 months, at least these permits are here. Is that etched in stone by the town of Elkton, or does the expiration of the permits come from the planning department, or how does that work, Lois?
I don't know. It's
That comes,
Ron Wells on here. He's the one that issues the permits.
that comes out of the building code. I guess the town could amend that, but that right now, that language is in the building code. If no construction is started within 6 months, then the permit has expired. But I think a bigger picture here, and I may not understand this, but I don't think we can issue any permits until the lots are recorded. And I don't believe the lots can be recorded until there's water and sewer in place. And that's going to be way beyond next year.
The 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's,
and I support what you do for the building department, but those are the questions that I had in hand, particularly, will they be able to meet the commitment that they have set forth in timelines in order to, construct homes and for us to reap the benefits at what point they're going down the road. But I still say, we still elected officials. We all should have a vision. And sometimes you hope that you can come up with a vision that's fruitful in the end. And, we need to ride on this thing together. That's it for me.
Thank you, Charlie. Robert?
That me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm good. I have no questions or comments on that.
Very good. I would like to make one other comment. If we, in going back to Gene's concern, we don't know if the houses are going to be built. But one thing that I do know, and I feel pretty comfortable to say this, if this developer has the opportunity to build and he's going to pay for these hookups, I feel pretty comfortable he's going to build the apartment complex first, which he would be paying the major facility fees on. And we may not get the houses. So going back to the thinking that I was doing everything I could to get the single family homes started before the apartment complexes, which they're going to be paying their major facility on. So if we ask them to pay on both, I think their money is going to go to the apartments. And I may be wrong on that, but I just wanted to give my 2 cents there.
Is there a way you can make that a guarantee that it wouldn't happen?
I think we can make that happen in our negotiations here. I think we could, and I would. But I just want everyone to think about that. We don't need to. I'm going to ask everyone that we're going to make a decision next Wednesday, but I want everyone to digest it. Continue to read what staff has to say. I'm a sales guy, and shame on me. My vision. I'm a duct tape sales guy, and I'm very good at it. And when I go out and sell, sometimes, if you remember, we started this project 6 years ago or 7 years ago, that I started trying to get us away from these 4,000 townhouses. And it just happened. I was exhausted. I was tired. I was at the end of my rope, and I wasn't going to pitch this anymore. And just like Colonel Sanders at 75 years old, he made that one last call and became what he did. And I did that, and I did it for the town. And if he would have jumped on board 5 years ago, we wouldn't even be having this discussion about the future expiration. So that's my 2 cents. Continue to gain information from the town staff. I think we've seen all the emails, and they're very valid points.
Can I ask a question, a favor?
Yes. Yes.
Just so I can think more about it and give a lot more consideration to this. Could we at least get something from our department heads, like how would this work when there's no water tower, so there's no plan approvals, which equals no permits? How is this going to work? And how do we look at this over a time frame? Because if Chip says he doesn't think there's going to be permits issued in the next year or so, what are we looking at? How many more years, until this thing is actually built out? And how, what would be their recommendation to us to make it happen?
I think maybe we bring the developer in and ask those questions.
Well,
and I'm happy. I think those are very valid.
I think he needs to be there. I'm more curious how our department heads would propose this to work, financially, permit wise, planning wise, infrastructure wise.
I think no, I think these are very valid points, and I think by next Wednesday we could even have. I'd almost like to know how much in major facility fees that we collected in the last 10 years for a firm number, and we've made out without them. I guess where I'm getting at, we've done pretty well.
And I'd like to know what kind of strain, if any, because that it's put on us.
Yep.
That where are we financially from our actions so far of what we've done?
Very good.
So, all right, thanks.
Well, listen. Yeah, go ahead, Earl.
Also, I would like to keep it open for a different option. If we don't waive fees, maybe we can vote on maybe a year-to-year decision based on the board decision to either give them some kind of remember we talked about a 2-3 year I'm trying to use the word
discount,
taxation for paying that. Yeah, discount. Not paying for the first 3 years or whatever, but we got to keep those options open.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If we can come up with something that would work, whether it's like I'm joking when I say a BOGO sale, but if they're completed within a certain time frame, they're free. If not, they're X amount. I don't know, or so many permits can be issued. Something that where we're not just giving away the store and being left in a financial despair.
Very good.
And you're right,
Thanks.
but also, I think the builder needs to be satisfied with whatever. I guess they had to put some input. Well, when Earl, what you're saying is good, and Gene, what you said is true. But if I'm a builder, I still want to have some input because I may not want to go along with that. So maybe the builders have some ideas that we might be able to work with, that we can work together to get this accomplished.
Yeah, obviously we need some kind of compromise. And it sounds like we need to have a meeting.
Very good. We'll invite Stonewall to the next meeting if we could, guys.
Very good.
Fine.
Thank you.
All right, it's 1:17. This workshop is.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
We got the chief and Lieutenant Waldridge on. They wanted to discuss the road closures for St. Patty's week.
I thought you guys just wanted to see us.
Well, we do.
All right.
We like listening to all this stuff, and I'm ready to go shopping with Commissioner Broomall because she's all about discounts and buy one, get one. But
yeah, I've never been to a store where you walk in and everything's free.
I want to go there. So Lieutenant Waldridge had gotten that request from the last meeting where Jessica Price had asked to do a street closure for, I think, 24 hours or 2 days or something for St. Patty's Day. And we weren't really sure what her plans are and what the, I'm not sure she wanted to put a tent up or something, but Lieutenant Waldridge, I'll let him talk about what he had some ideas, and I thought maybe Jessica was going to be on here, but let him, an alternative to closing the street, because there seems to be a lot of pushback from some of the other businesses during some of these street closures. So if you guys just have a few minutes, I'll let him talk to you.
Very good. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. And just speaking briefly with Jessica and hearing what the board had proposed as far as the St. Patrick's Day, I tried to mitigate the positive aspects for the town, for the Alliance, for the businesses, and also take into consideration the public safety and minimize all those as far as the negative aspect. And so what I had suggested as a proposal is that with the alcohol waiver that was already issued by the town, instead of closing Main Street for that 24-hour period, which still requires a state highway permit, even though the town accepts responsibility of that road, it does extend and connect on either end as part of State Highway Route 7. And I have confirmation from the State Highway in Chestertown that we would still need to submit a permit. And typically that requires a 60-day compliance rate. So at the point where we are, we would not be in compliance with the 60-day requirement. But what my suggestion would be is that we would go back to what C3 had with their outdoor seating, Elk River, which continues to have their Elk River, their outdoor seating, and Sport, which would be our three main businesses impacted by the roadway closures, allow them to continue with their outdoor dining, and then allocate the festival itself, whatever Jessica had in store, to the municipal parking lot there that's joined by North Street and Main Street. By doing that, it would limit the resources by the Department of Public Works and the police department as far as roadway closures. It would enable participants to park on Main Street adjacent to the gathering areas. And it would also allow us to be a little bit more compliant with the governor's executive orders as far as the COVID restrictions. So participants could still eat, could still carry out, would still have their alcohol. We could potentially extend that alcohol waiver to that municipal parking lot if necessary. And we would have that gathering area there relative to being the street and the streets in front of the businesses and closing the roadway down for 24 hours. That was just some thoughts that I had and wanted to run those by the board before I actually approached Jessica with that alternative.
I think that from only thing I know is what she told us at the meeting the other day. And I did go into Central Tavern and they were talking about putting tables out there and leaving them out there for a couple days. And I keep it more spaced. And I even asked the question, well, why can't you put the tables in each night? And they responded back that they were talking about doing some type of tent. I'm not listen, if they don't have the 60-day requirement, then they don't have the 60-day requirement. And I would say whatever the board suggests here, I don't see where that parking lot's going to help Central or Elk River, in my view. But I may be wrong. Maybe they'll like it. Any other input from anyone else?
We've already given the approval, so with Larry already done some research, can't he and Jessica and the group meet and they can get back to us so we can give approval or non-approval?
I agree with that.
Right now.
I like that.
I'm on board with Lieutenant Waldron. I'm fine with his decision. At least they would keep the festival going, whatever they have to do. He's the one going to be controlling the traffic and everything anyway. So, when I say he, the department.
Right.
So I'm all for it.
Very good.
So just whatever they can work out together, is that what I'm hearing here?
That's
correct.
correct.
Work it out.
Yeah, I'd say whatever they can work out.
Because I'm not really sure what her vision for this festival even looks like. Are you guys?
No.
Okay. All right.
That's why you all going to take care of it and get back to us.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought that was happening anyway. I just was a little.
The wise man there.
And the other thing while I have you guys all on here is when I sent out the police management report last week, I put a little blurb on the email about a facial hair policy. I hadn't gotten any feedback. I just want to make sure that you guys don't have really strong feelings about it. One thing I didn't share is I do have 2 officers that already got doctor's notes telling me that they can't shave. And I expect that if we don't do some kind of policy and just regulate it, that I'm probably going to get some more of those. Do you guys have strong feelings either way? If I do something like that, I expect you will get maybe some comments or questions from the public.
I have no issue.
Okay.
I have no issue either, as long as they clean shaven and trimmed.
Well, that's
and
what
this,
I'm
that, and the
thinking,
other.
right? Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure before I moved forward with it, but thank you guys.
Exactly, yeah, as long as they're not Duck Dynasty, I think.
Yeah.
No Duck Dynasty.
I'm sure they'll
here.
keep it well groomed.
Oh, shoot.
I'd like to make a comment.
Just my covert officers. I do have a Duck Dynasty looking guy.
I want to comment here that I know that Lieutenant Waldridge is going to work with Jessica on the St. Patrick's Day thing, but we cannot close Main Street if it's in violation of the 60-day rule with the state highway. We have an obligation by law to honor the regulatory requirement.
Lois, I think we know that, and I think the lieutenant knows that, but that's why he's going to get back to us. We appreciate your comment.
I do know in the past, sometimes state highway hasn't held us strictly to that 60 days, but if they do, then we will have to make other alternatives.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. I think a
Thank
very
you.
productive meeting. A lot of great discussion.
One last comment.
Yes, sir.
I love duct tape.
There you go.
I have more duct tape than he has in his truck probably.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't want to beat this down the road any, but in hindsight, I really thought that we had enough time by the deadline date to make this happen. And I would have came to the board 3 years ago or when it first happened and asked at that point, and it wouldn't be coming down to a kind of a crunch time. And, it is becoming a crunch time in regards to it's a year and it's something away, but it sounds like maybe they don't even have their finals or anywhere close to it. So I don't know. So that was my other 2 cents.
Thank you.
Sir.
I'll see you guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good day, everybody.